With a blanket over it.
Maybe. I mean, it's not going to run nearly as hot as it normally does, but we'll be fine. What we're going to do is we're just going to sit for 10 seconds and just let it record room tone, and then I'm going to take that and use the noise reduction tool.
Okay.
Meanwhile, on the comic box, it's time to Ragnarok and roll. Huh? Boo? Okay, alright. Well, do I get to say kick it, wife? Will you kick it?
No.
Okay. Comics. Hello, everyone, and welcome to issue 71 of the Comic Box, part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. I am Rob, your friendly neighborhood comic geek, and with me this week, because I asked really nicely, is the wife. Hi, wife.
Hi, husband.
How are you?
I'm alright, how are you?
Not bad. So this was going to be like a totally different format episode, but then I actually looked at the calendar and realized Thor Ragnarok comes out in a week. And so I had to do a prep episode. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're doing instead. This was supposed to be this big, spooky, something or other, who knows what kind of episode. But instead we're going to talk Thor Ragnarok, which I guess is kind of spooky, because the villain is the goddess of death.
Sure.
Sure? Okay.
I don't know who that is.
And that's why we're here.
So you can't look at me and be like, right, I don't know, you tell me.
Well, you saw the trailer.
No, I didn't. I saw, like, pieces of it.
I played the trailer.
Yeah, I was cleaning up after dinner, so...
You were sitting on the couch looking at your phone.
That's cleaning up after dinner.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. Anyway, before we get to all that, I want to do the weekly geekery.
Okay. So,
did you think about this at all, of what you wanted to say? What have you done? How have you kept it geek this past week?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I should have known this question was coming.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Do you want me to go first, then?
You always do.
No, I don't. I don't always.
I'm sounding very bickery.
I know, you're being very mean this week.
I am not.
Okay, so I'm going to do mine first. And then if you want, I have some things in mind that you've done that I thought were fairly geeky.
Okay.
In their own way. So I finished reading... See, now you just give me a dirty look. I finished reading the trade Lost Angels Paradise High, which is the book I've talked about a couple times on here, where it's a city of basically angels falls near Los Angeles, and this takes place years afterward. But they're not angels, they're aliens, they just look like angels. And that was very good. I also read Volume 6 of Giant Days, which just came out, and I'm a big fan of that comic, so I bought all of the trades recently for that, and then pre-ordered this one, so it finally came in and I got to read that. I also went and read my issues of the Marvel Max Blade run, which was okay, but got canceled before the story could really go anywhere, and my issues of the Nightmare on Elm Street comic. But I'm missing one issue, and it's the end of the first story arc. It's like the issue number 3 or something. So I wasn't actually able to finish that part of the story, which is frustrating. As far as things that I have watched, I'm trying to... well, first, I guess I watched all of Lore, which is the Amazon TV show based on the podcast, where it's basically true stories of myths and legends and sort of the facts behind them. And obviously it was really disturbing because there's like the guy in the 50s and 60s who did ice pick lobotomies in the U.S. and this guy in Ireland basically torturing his wife because he thinks that she's a magical creature, you know, because Christianity hadn't fully taken hold in Ireland at that time. And I thought it was good, but I feel like I probably prefer the podcast version, the audio version. I like listening to it. I had no problem watching it. I just think in the end I prefer just hearing those stories. I'm also trying to work my way through Stranger Things because the new season comes out this upcoming weekend. I think I'm on episode like 4 out of 8, so I have a bit of binging to do. And then I went and saw the silent film Nosferatu from 1922 with a live orchestra, which was kind of neat. And it was in this like large but also run down theater that I guess is completely run by volunteers up in Minneapolis. But that was pretty cool because that felt Halloween-y. And I always kind of wanted to see a silent film with live music. So, and they had like is it a theremin? Theremin?
Yeah, I think it's a TH. Theremin.
A theremin? Well, they had one of those in addition to the other instruments, so it was a good time. And I think that's it.
Okay.
I mean, it was a decent amount of geekery. I feel like that's worthwhile. How about you, wife?
I was mostly listening to you and not thinking of my own stuff.
Well, the big one is you and I both got to go and have brunch with Joe.
Oh, yeah.
From Geektitude.
Yes, we did.
It's hard to remember what's like within the last week sometimes.
Man, I have been so busy with work that everything just kind of smashes together.
Yeah.
And I'm old. We're adults now and no longer have the, like, I don't know, passing time just seems weird now. I don't have anything that I do week to week like this, so it all just kind of blurs together.
Yeah, but we got to go and hang out with Joe and his husband Matt and their two friends that they were up visiting here in the city. So that was really good. It was a lot of, like, we got pretty chatty. I won't say we dug into any particular topic at all. Yeah. Talked a lot about, like, houses and stuff, because he just finished doing his big remodeling project, and his house looks really good. And then we had our friend's sort of baby shower thing, and I consider this, anything in my mind is geeky if you like it enough, and it was that you, and I'm going to say you instead of we, recently got an electric smoker and spent how many hours smoking various meats?
Yeah, it was a while.
Like 12 hours?
Well, it was, about 4 hours on Thursday, and then probably like 10 hours, 9 hours or something on Sunday.
Yeah, and we're still, even after we made everybody else take leftovers, and we had Ryan, who's been on the show, over for dinner and fed him a bunch of, and he had like several plates full of meats. We are still trying to work our way through all of the ribs and the what we just call it?
Pulled
pork and the sausage. Yeah, so I consider that fairly geeky. And then, what have you been reading or watching?
We've been watching The Office.
Mm-hmm. We're at about, we're in season 5 now?
I don't even know.
We're really moving along, I feel. We watch a couple episodes at a time whenever we sit down to watch it.
Which isn't as frequently lately.
Yeah. But what are you thinking about The Office versus... Because I know Parks and Rec is the big one.
It is.
And I always say, when I talk about the weekly geekery, that it's sort of going backwards from Parks and Rec to The Office. But what are you thinking? Because I know the big thing you say every single episode is that you don't like most of the characters.
Right, and that's the problem, is that I hate Michael Scott. I think he's not only annoying, but he's sexist.
Yeah.
And he's just so offensive. Mm-hmm. And Dwight's a jerk. Mm-hmm. And I know you're supposed to be like, oh, but Jim bullies him. He's still a super jerk. Like, come on, this is not some innocent person that's getting picked on. He's a jerk.
Okay.
And I don't like Ryan. I just don't like
which
him.
Is the interesting thing. Like, he just seems to be your least favorite character.
I really, really dislike him. I was so happy when he had a cocaine habit and got fired.
But then what do you think about, like, Mindy Kaling's character? Because originally it was that she didn't have a whole lot of things to say on the show, but you read her book.
Yeah, I read her first memoir. I don't even know if it's called a memoir.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Enough.
Like, because it's not really, it's the first 30 years of her life.
Right.
But I read that, and a lot of it was about her time as a writer on The Office, and how she said something along the lines of, she wanted to focus more on writing instead of acting, and so she wouldn't write herself into very many of the episodes because she felt that took away the focus that she wanted to have on writing good stories, or something along those lines.
Right. So her character wasn't really that well defined in earlier seasons.
Right. Yeah. And so she sort of would let everybody else write that person, Kelly, and she wouldn't write it so much for herself.
Okay. And it was also interesting to find out that Toby was supposed to be a one-off character, was going to leave the show, but everybody really liked him, even though he wasn't really an actor, just because of his delivery. And so he stuck around. Okay. Well, see? That's some weekly geekery. And then, of course, this week we watched both of the Thor movies, which you enjoy.
Yes, they're good movies.
Even though...
They're fun movies.
There you go. I was going to say, well, I don't call them good movies.
That's because they're great.
Right. Okay, well, I don't have anything else. I didn't go looking up any news stories. I know there's stuff that's happening out there in the world of comics and TV and stuff. I know there was another Punisher trailer that came out that I think officially gave us a premiere date, which is sometime in November, though there was talk of maybe that getting pushed back just because of recent violence, gun violence, that sort of thing. But we're not going to talk about that this week. This week we're just talking Thor. So we're going to get into it. But first, why are you making that face at me? Yeah, I don't really say that a lot anymore. Some guy named Matt kept giving me flack about doing, but first, this. But I'm going to do it anyway. This.
I'm Void.
And I'm Beej.
And together, we're the Geek to Geek podcast. Well, we make it. It is kind of us, but I guess it's separate.
Every week, we pick a topic from geek or digital culture and chat about it for a while.
And you're invited. We talk about books and movies, games, comics, the internet.
Or really whatever we feel like.
Yeah, that too.
So look for the Geek to Geek podcast on iTunes.
Or wherever your podcasts are sold. Or downloaded. Or whatever.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie.
And I'm Chelsea, and we're the hosts of the podcast
Tea Time with Katie and Chelsea.
We are two best friends who love pop culture. We try to have a female perspective on things, but we really just talk about anything we like. What are some recent topics we've done, Katie?
Well, we've talked about girl power songs, Wonder Woman, Veronica Mars, young adult fiction novels, San Diego Comic-Con, and so much more. So grab your cup of tea or whatever your drink of choice is and download our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher and start listening today.
Hi, my name is Joe Hogan, and I'm a geek. And if you're currently listening to this, there's a good chance you're a geek too. So check out my podcast, Geektitude. Each week, I talk with somebody about their geek aptitude. Sometimes I talk to people in a geeky profession. Sometimes it's someone doing something really cool with their geekiness. Often it's another geeky podcaster. But it's always someone who wants to share their inner geek. So join me each week as we come together to geek out about all the geeky stuff we love. And remember, this week, keep it geek.
And we are back. Yay, commercials. We are part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. Please, star ratings and reviews, and listen to all of our shows. We did get a new review within the last couple of days, actually, and I have it written down, so I have to go in and find it here.
Is it your mom?
It was not my mom. I don't think she knows how to use iTunes. So, Near Toby is the name of the user on iTunes who left us a review and was very nice, so thank you very much for that review. We're now up to 22, so maybe if we get to 25, I'll let Liam do his very own episode again, where we do the Comic Box After Dark. Basically, I let him swear and be a jerk. They're not the best episodes, but...
What do you mean episodes? You only did one.
So our topic of the week this week, with a topic of the week. Nice job, wife. It was impressive. You sounded just like me.
It's amazing.
So our topic of the week this week is Thor Ragnarok, which comes out on the 3rd. And so I wanted to start by sort of recapping where we are with the characters, because Thor and the Hulk were absent from, obviously, Spider-Man, which is the most recent Marvel Cinematic Universe film, and Captain America Civil War. They weren't in either. Now, we had the little fun extra videos that suggested where they might be and what they're doing, but they weren't, I don't think, meant to be taken seriously. Where Thor is talking to Banner about how nobody calls him and asks him for help during the Civil War stuff, and then where he has his roommate, because he's living in Australia and trying to get a regular job, and he's terrible at it. Which are hilarious.
I enjoy those.
And
Daryl is his...
Daryl, yeah, and are scary because of the size of his muscles.
Brains.
Excuse me, the brains. Yes. The brain is a muscle. This is brain, all of these are brains. Which makes me more powerful and smarter than you, or whatever his line is. So, well, I guess let's just start with the first Thor. What were your thoughts on the first movie where we're introduced to the character?
In what sense?
Did you like it?
Of course I liked it.
Why did you like it?
It's gonna sound dumb and girly. It's
Yeah,
because the
that's
whole...
okay.
Oh, thanks for confirming that it's dumb and girly.
No, I'm not saying that it's dumb and... I'm just saying it's okay. Who cares if you want to be dumb and girly?
Well, I like the chivalry of it. It's just so fun to see a respectful character who has nice abs, who beats people up.
Even though he's completely full of himself and a jerk as well. Like, I mean, that's the point of the movie, is over a long weekend.
Yep.
He gets stripped of his rank and title, and then
which, if you
gains
think
humility
in
and falls in
Asgardian
love.
time is it's like a hot minute.
Yeah, because they talk about how they live for thousands of years
Right.
in the second one, which is weird. And we could just talk about both of these interchangeably, because whatever.
Sure.
The second movie just isn't very good. Like, it's okay. Malekith is not a good villain.
No,
Right.
but he's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be about Malekith.
Well, yes, but in your movies, the villain is supposed to be, like, basically he was a device to introduce the Aether, which, they identified as one of the Infinity Stones. Mm-hmm. And then Loki kind of steals the show, has character development, and then throws it all away by faking his death, and you find out he's not actually dead. So we have no idea if there was any learning experience for him whatsoever, even though that seemed to be like the subplot of the whole movie, was Loki's character development. Because he was a decent villain in the first one, and obviously in the Avengers I feel a little less so because it was a little more convoluted, but in the first one, absolutely. Like, his plan is still ridiculous, but just the idea of his motivations makes sense.
Right.
Of feeling that he deserves to rule. And then his excuse in the second one I actually liked, where he talks about what he did on Earth. He's like, Odin's killed a hell of a lot more people than I ever did when I went to Earth, and I was there to be a benevolent ruler. It was their fault for standing up to me. Like, you would have done the same, except you would have killed more people, was Loki's logic.
Well, that's what he says.
Yeah.
But the whole, I went to be a benevolent ruler, but you didn't. Didn't you start by, like, messing things up, like, straight from the get-go? And
kind of worked for Thanos. And
right.
Yeah.
So, no, you didn't. You're just trying to save face.
That's fair. That's fair. So now, as far as where all of our characters are, at the end of Age of Ultron, Thor is like, the Infinity Stone... Well, first of all, in Age of Ultron, Thor takes a bath. Mm-hmm. And then somebody drops a toaster in it, and there's all the lightning everywhere. Right?
I do not remember this.
There's no toaster. I'm making it.
No, I just don't remember that movie.
It was the deleted scenes that I pulled up on
Oh.
YouTube, where he's in the water and has his vision. And
Yeah.
he sees what the different Infinity Stones are. Basically, it was just a throwaway scene so they could try and link the movies together.
I see.
And then at the end, where, Tony Stark's like, I'm going to go do my own thing. And Captain America is like, have a new generation of Avengers. And Thor just, like, pieces out. He's like, well, there's stones out there. So... bye, and then he calls down the bridge, and Tony Stark makes a quip about him not caring about the landscaping or whatever. Mm-hmm. Right, and that's the last we see of Thor until the end credit sequence of Doctor Strange, where he has the beer mug that keeps refilling itself, and he says something about Odin being on Earth, and Doctor Strange being like, hey, once you and Loki find your dad, you're going to get out of here, right? And he's like, yeah, great. Then let me help you. And that was the end of Doctor Strange. So the idea is we'll have a cameo from him in the new Thor movie. As far as why Odin is on Earth at the end of Thor the Dark World, so the last time we see Loki, he has somehow taken over the throne of Asgard. We don't see how.
That's not necessarily true.
Well, he fakes his death.
Correct.
And then he is sitting on the throne pretending to be Odin, says nice things to Thor. Thor walks away. And then we see that it's really Loki sitting on the throne.
But there's nobody else in that room. So to say that he has assumed the throne and is now, taking over, it's not necessarily the truth, because he could just be having a one-on-one conversation just to get his brother out of the way.
That's interesting.
So that he could take over.
That's interesting. Okay. So, like, Thor or Odin is just, like, in the can.
Or something. Because, like, why would he change back to Loki if there were other people there?
Because it's a movie, and we need to see that it's really Loki.
I understand that.
Okay.
But there was no one else in the room. So.
Right. Fair. So, that's what we know. And then also, the Hulk, the last time we see him is at the end of Age of Ultron, where he's in a plane just flying away, and then there's some, offhand comment of the plane landed somewhere in the ocean, and he swam somewhere. And that's it. And then suddenly we see these trailers now for Thor Ragnarok. And in the trailers, we're presented with Cate Blanchett as Hela, the goddess of death, who shows up, smashes, or is able to catch Thor's hammer and destroy it. And then we see Thor and Hulk fighting a gladiator fight for the amusement of a crowd and Jeff Goldblum and Loki for some reason.
Because you have to have Loki.
Because Loki has to be in there.
People like Loki better.
The ladies like that. Well, do you like Tom Hiddleston better than Thor?
Oh, no, that's not what I mean. It's
okay.
just as far as a character.
Yeah.
People like Loki more than you like Thor. Because Thor is as nice, as good of a character as he is. I mean, he's fine. Loki clearly has more layers to him and more depth, and so
he's kind of got that underdog thing going for him as well.
The underdog thing, and everybody has their own sort of devious side, and Thor is just straight up good.
Yeah.
Even to his own detriment, even as to, becoming so arrogant. Of course I'm good. I know everything. Yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But he is very, very good. Whereas Loki is mostly bad, but clearly has dimension and shades to his character.
Right.
So he's just more interesting, and I think more relatable, because not everybody, in fact, nobody is 100% good.
Right. Which is why you just can't kill that character off, because
right.
people enjoy him so much. So in the trailers, we see this happen, and then him saying he's putting a team together, and it's himself, Loki, because he keeps working with his brother, even, curse your... What is that? You wouldn't know this because you weren't actually a fan of Firefly. Not to turn my whole audience against you. But it's curse your... Is it inevitable? Boy, it's curse your evil but inevitable betrayal or something like that. The idea of like, yeah, I'm going to work with Loki again. Why? Why, Thor? Just because it's your brother and you just have hope?
And I'm sure Firefly's fine. Nathan Fillion is awful.
Okay. Who I don't believe is in this movie. So, hooray. As far as I'm aware, anyway.
Which is good, because, we would watch, random episodes of one thing or another, and he was always there. He had, a resurgence last year. Yeah. It's just, stop it.
Which is a shame, because we both like Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
From Tucker and Dale.
Yeah.
For example, yeah. Anyway, so... I'm completely off track here. Yep. So he puts together a team of Hulk, himself, Loki, and Valkyrie, and the idea is that they're going to try and go back and retake Asgard or somehow defeat Hela. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the main thing that we know. There's all these other little clips and things that I can get into in a minute, but first I want to know, what do you hope to get out of a third Thor movie? And after seeing the trailer, what are you expecting out of the movie?
I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to be excited for the movie, because it just seems like they're taking the humor too far.
Like it's another Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Which, I mean, I liked Guardians of the Galaxy. That was fine, but, resorting to lower forms of humor versus, what they had in the first couple of movies, where it was just witty little lines and, that sort of thing. And now it just seems like they're going more of the slapstick route in a lot of senses. And so I worry about that, because I like the witty humor.
Yeah. And Thor, I think, of all the other characters, it needs the gravitas to it. I was let down by the second one because it was much more Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, the bad guys are all in spaceships and stuff rather than their own version. And I know the idea is Asgard is in space and they're trying to add technology into all of it. But to me, Thor should feel like a Norse legend when you see him in action and when you see some of those scenes. Like, when he's on these other planets and he's having those giant battles or whatever.
Having the giant battles with the stronger version of himself, that's what you wanted to see from Thor?
No, because I always make comments about fighting a stronger version.
But that's exactly what that is.
No, because a stronger version of himself would be like an evil Thor with a bigger hammer. That's not what I'm looking for. But like when he's fighting big monsters in other, worlds or whatever. Something that feels like you're seeing, one of those old tales come to life, which Ragnarok is. But I don't think that's really the direction that they're going with it. Because Ragnarok is played out multiple times in the comic books. In the comics, it's actually this cycle of death and rebirth where all of the Asgardians die and then come back.
What is Ragnarok?
Ragnarok...
You keep using this term like I'm supposed to know what this means.
So Ragnarok is the title of the film.
I understand
Thor
that.
Ragnarok. In Norse mythology, Ragnarok is their end of the world story. Think Revelations, kind of. It's the tale of how the world ends, and it's in great detail of how all the gods die. It's the giant wolf Fenris, who is a son of Loki for some reason, comes in and kills... Boy, who does Fenris kill? Tyr or something? Like, there's all these characters that haven't been introduced in the films yet, these different Asgardians. And as Thor ends up killing what they call the world serpent, but dies in the process, and Heimdall kills Loki, and like there's all these different versions of the end of the... It's their end of the world. It's how the gods die and the end of Asgard. And in the comic books, it's happened multiple times in the past. And it's sort of their cycle of the world ending and everybody comes back. So, like... and I'm getting ahead of myself, but Hela, for example, in the comic books, is the daughter of a former version of Loki. But not the current version, sort of thing. Just like the giant wolf is a child of Loki. And so one of the big Ragnarok storylines is Thor finds a way to cancel this out and keep it from ever happening again. But a lot of the characters we're going to see kind of have part in that, because Hela's job is to guard the land of the dead, but not Valhalla, which is where the honored dead go, the ones who die in battle, because that's what all the Vikings wanted to do. So a lot of her comic book storylines revolve around her trying to come and take over Valhalla or work with Loki to take over Asgard. And then in the trailer, there's one shot where the Hulk is flying at a giant fire demon-looking guy. That, I can only assume, is a character called Surtur, who is like the king of another one of the realms. This is off the top of my head. I have it on here, but I want to say it's Muspelheim, because he was in the comics recently. This is the only reason I know this. But his thing is he either kills Odin or falls in battle with Odin, or they end up in limbo killing each other over and over again forever. But his job in Ragnarok is to kind of show up at the end and burn all of Asgard to the ground. But he was a Thor villain for a really long time. There was the famous Walt Simonson run that introduced like Beta Ray Bill and a lot of these other side characters. There'd be like one panel or two panels in each issue. And this is, I read it on Hoopla, so I read it all as one thing. But you have to think this is once a month, you see a panel of like a sword being struck. Month after month after month is just this tease of who is this person, what is this sword, and you find out it's Surtur, and he's making this giant sword called Twilight, which he's going to use to kill a bunch of the gods. Don't you smile when I say Twilight. We're not talking about... He makes a sword that looks just like Robert Pattinson.
Does it sparkle?
And it sparkles. And that's all it does. It woos the women into giving up. But anyway, that's Ragnarok. Ragnarok is when everybody dies, and in this case, I think they're just using it to refer to Hela showing up and taking over Asgard. But it's weird because the trailers are like, I'm the queen of death, what are you the god of again? Or I'm the goddess of death, what are you the god of again? But in the second one, Odin flat out says, we're not gods.
Yeah.
So, but now they want to push the god thing because it's cool to say?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You tell me.
So, you're worried about the humor,
Mm-hmm.
to roll it back. What do you want to see then? What's the thing that you want out of this movie? Like, what's going to make you happy coming out of it?
Seeing Sif.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen.
It looks like that's not happening. Yeah.
I like her.
Because we have Valkyrie instead. Now, obviously, the big question is whether that was and I don't want to sound like a jerk saying it, but whether that was a diversity play in knowing that otherwise all of their characters are a bunch of white people. You know?
Mm-hmm.
With the exception of Heimdall.
But that's the way... I mean, you were talking to me before.
Yeah.
It's Norse mythology.
It's a bunch of blonde white people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the blonde white people come from.
Right. But even in the other movies, you had Hogan, one of the Warriors 3, who was played by an Asian actor. And then they're basically like, oh, because you're from this realm. In the second movie, they're like, you can stay here, your realm. Be like, literally, it's the realm of Asian people? Like, that seems really weird and racist instead of just being like, yeah, Asgard has people of all different, you know, races, creeds, nationalities, however you want to put it, like, because why not?
Right.
You know? But yes, because Valkyrie, well, let's get into some of these characters then. So Valkyrie, in the comics, is a character, her real name is Brunhild, or something like that, based on the Norse legend of, like, Brunhildur or something. I have it all written down to the right of me on my laptop.
But you're not going to look.
I'm going to try to not look. I'm going to see how good I am at this. Traditionally, she's a member of the Defenders. Obviously not the version that's on Netflix, because that's all street-level heroes. She has a magical sword and rides a winged horse named Aragorn. No bells going off in your eyes
no,
there.
It
Lord
is.
of the Rings.
Yes.
Okay.
I was trying to think, I was like, where do I know that? I feel like it's something I don't like. And it's true.
So, like the Valkyries in Norse mythology, her job was to go and pick up the fallen heroes off of the battlefield and lead them to Valhalla. And then in the comics, it gets very convoluted, where she gets tricked by a character called the Enchantress, not the version from the awful Suicide Squad movie. This is the Marvel version. And, what's her real name? See?
Failed.
I know, I failed. I have to scroll down. I have to scroll down and see who no, it's not there.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
That's all you get before you have to pay for it.
That's true. Yeah, after that we do. Well, it doesn't matter because I don't think we're going to see the Enchantress in the movie anyway. But I'm kind of upset that I can't remember the Enchantress's real name. There's my block on Valkyrie. Oh well. Anyway. But there's this whole weird storyline where, like, her essence gets sealed in a crystal, and then a bunch of other women in the Marvel Universe become the Valkyrie, and then Doctor Strange helps her get her real body back, and yada, yada, yada. And at one point, she's a love interest for Thor, because every female in the Thor stories at one point or another is a love interest for Thor, which I guess makes sense. If he's Thor and he's a Viking and that's kind of his thing, is drinking and women and being a womanizer, like a part of his character, not so much the chivalry.
No, but isn't that most comments? Isn't that most comics geared towards men? Is every woman there falls in love with them at some point?
Probably, yes.
Yes.
But Thor, I think, in particular, because even the Enchantress, the villain,
The
at
Captain
one point,
Kirk phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly. And Odin's whole thing was he wanted Thor to pair up with Sif instead of Jane Foster. He hated the fact that Thor was going after Jane Foster, who, as far as I'm aware, is also not in this movie. So both of the potential love interests that we've been introduced to are supposedly not in this movie, which I think, not that we need a love interest at all, but then to introduce like a third one, and we're just like, at this point, whatever, it's like the Hulk and Black Widow, like it's unnecessary.
No Sif love interest.
But it was clear that Sif was interested in Thor.
Sure, but that still doesn't mean that there's a story there.
Well, they tried to do a love triangle in the second film.
No, they didn't.
They absolutely did.
They did not.
Because Sif was always throwing the eyes and didn't get why Thor was interested in Jane Foster, right? And then Odin tells Thor that he should be going after Sif instead, and
Right.
then Sif is forced to go on the mission protecting Jane.
That's not a love triangle. A love triangle would be some action on either Thor's or Sif's part to make that triangle have a third side.
Well, an
So-
unspoken...
That's not a love triangle.
Okay. I don't know these things. I don't know these love story things. Anyway, Valkyrie, in essence, is a pretty simple character in that sense. She's also super strong. She is the strongest of the... They don't call them Valkyries. They call them Valkyors or something like that. So she is the only one named Valkyrie. But she's their leader and the strongest of them. Almost a Wonder Woman type, I guess. I'm sure somebody out there is going to be really upset at me for drawing that parallel. But female hero. So I think her character is very much going to be original to the movie, and they'll figure out a way to say, oh, she was another gladiator on the planet, or whatever. Which can bring us into talking about this planet and this plot line. Talked a little bit about Ragnarok. The other story that's supposedly mixed in here is a storyline called Planet Hulk, where a group called the Illuminati, think the smartest people in the Marvel Universe, that it would include Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Black Panther, decide the Hulk is too dangerous and just shoot him off into space. And he ends up on this planet where he gains fame and fortune as a gladiator, and eventually takes over the planet and has a wife and a kid and yada yada before coming back to Earth. I think the only part of that they're going to include is the fact that the planet is named Sakaar and there are gladiator fights, and the Hulk finds that he found a place where he belongs, which is being a gladiator in the ring. So that's going to kind of get mixed in there somewhere, and then they're going to sort of shake and bake. They said it's supposed to be like a buddy cop travel movie,
Which is so...
but it doesn't look like it. It looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy if it's a team, right?
And it also looks like there's a lot of moving parts in the movie and a lot of different storylines, and I just wonder if it's going to be too busy.
Well, they're introducing a lot of new characters. Surtur's going to be a new character. Hel is a new character. Valkyrie's a new character. We're getting introduced to Jeff Goldblum's character, the Grandmaster, who is, in the comic books, he's another guy who's considered an elder of the universe, just like the Collector, where he's a guy who's been around literally forever, and he likes games and has mastered all of them. Hence, he is the Grand Master. And that's like his thing. He just travels around playing games against people. And so he orchestrates fights between heroes and villains and stuff like that in the comic books. He obviously looks nothing like Jeff Goldblum. In the comics, he's a blue guy with white hair who like wears a long dress-looking thing. So I'm okay with them redesigning the character. But I don't know what role Jeff Goldblum is going to play, if any. I'm seeing it as he's going to be the guy who orchestrates these fights.
Relatively small cameo kind of thing.
Yeah, like in the comic books, he actually holds one of the Infinity Gems, which is the Mind Gem, which we've already seen in the movies because it's the one that Vision uses. So I don't see him being tied into the Infinity Gems at all. But in the comics, there is the storyline where Thanos goes and gets the Infinity Gems from each one of the Elders of the Universe that has one of them. And it's awesome. It's a really wonderful storyline, but we're not going to see that. So I'm guessing Jeff Goldblum is just going to kind of be there to be Jeff Goldblum for a little while. I don't see him playing a major role in anything at all.
Which is funny because he's in the trailer then more than he should be.
Yeah, well, he was even in the end credits of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where they show everybody dancing. There's a shot of Jeff Goldblum dancing there.
Yeah, but that's not really...
Well, it's not. He's not. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like they're just playing off. Hey, kids, it's Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all he's going to be doing in the movie as well. He'll be some momentary villain, and then something's going to happen, and then that's how they're going to end up getting Loki. Because in the trailer, he's like sitting there chained up or something like that. So it'll be, he blames Loki for everything going wrong when the Hulk and Thor bust the place up, and then he's going to peace out, and maybe we'll never see him again. I honestly have no idea, but I don't expect him to have any sort of special powers or abilities or anything like that. Who else do we have in this movie? Again, all the other ones. All right, so there is a shot of a guy. The actor is Carl Urban, but it's a guy in armor with two like assault rifles. This is a character named Scourge the Executioner. I like that you're leaning back. You're like, all right, here we go.
Well, I'm cold. B, you talk a lot.
Do I?
But
Very basic. He's an Asgardian. He had a giant axe called the Blood Axe. That's pretty much it. He's a Thor bad guy. He either worked for the Enchantress a lot or Loki. Usually when they convinced him to work for them, he's just an Asgardian with a big axe who then trades it in for guns later on and dies. He switches sides at the last minute, and to help keep Ragnarok from happening, he dies. That's pretty much it. I don't think we're going to see any... it's sad to have another Thor movie where we don't really get any Warriors 3, and we won't get much Sif, which is a shame, because they even had Sif on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
oh yeah.
And the Enchantress. It was an episode where the Enchantress was the villain. But I don't really expect either of them to show up. Amora is the name of the Enchantress. Did it without looking. Go me.
20 minutes later.
20 minutes later. Okay. So here's what I see happening. Like you said, too much. I think we're going to jump around a whole lot. And then the movie's going to be, 2 hours long or 2.5 hours long or whatever it is. And you're going to be like, you didn't need to be this long if you streamlined your story. It's going to have to tie into the Infinity War stuff somehow. I don't know if they're going to reveal another Infinity Stone, but it's like...
How many stones do we have so far?
That is an excellent question.
The mind one.
The mind gem.
We have the Loki Pokey Stick one.
Well, that is the mind gem.
Oh, that is?
Yeah, that was the mind gem. The Loki Pokey Stick had the mind gem in it, that's now in the Vision.
Okay, we have the one that's in Guardian of the Galaxy's.
Right, Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm guessing, is the space gem.
Okay.
Or rather, the power gem.
And then
because people exploded when they held onto it.
The red one from the last Thor movie.
Which we'll assume is the space gem, because it created rifts in space, kind of. Or it wasn't really even what that one did, was it?
It was just infinite evil is kind of how they...
Yeah, because Malekith uses it to send out spiky things.
Right.
So who knows what that's supposed to be? Maybe the reality gem.
So that's 3.
Mm-hmm. Time gem.
When was that one?
That was Doctor Strange. That's what's in his amulet.
Oh.
Is the time gem. And I think that's it so far. So that's 4.
So we got 2 more? 1 more?
It depends what they decide to do with it. In the comics, yeah, there's 6.
Because didn't they show that guy's glove at the end of one of the movies?
Yes.
The purple guy, and it had X number of spaces, so shouldn't
I would think it would be 6, yeah. That was on there. Because there's one like on each knuckle, and then there's a large one in the center.
I'm glad you know what I'm talking about when I say the thing.
The thing with the guy. Purple guy is Thanos, yeah. Because we're still missing the soul gem, possibly the reality gem, or the space gem, depending on how they want to play it. The theory is we'll get Adam Warlock, because at the end of Guardians 2 they said, we'll call him Adam, and she's creating this thing, and he uses the soul gem, but I mean, who knows?
Okay,
like, it's
I was just curious.
Yeah. So here's what I see happening. Odin is somewhere lost on Earth. We'll assume maybe Loki wiped his memory or something. Or maybe Odin just decided to take a break and go see what the whole Earth thing is all about. But they get Doctor Strange's help. That's gonna, I would assume, be a very short scene. But a cool Easter egg we've already seen in the trailers is Thor looks like a hippie. And then in a very quick shot, he's got a stick and he smacks it on the ground, and then suddenly he looks like Thor. That is from the original comic books, where Odin sends Thor, wipes his memory, turns him into Dr. Donald Blake, and eventually he finds a walking stick. And when he bangs the walking stick against anything, it turns into the hammer and he turns into Thor. So I like that they're adding that little touch in there just for our sakes. But that's... I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the beginning of the movie. Like, it doesn't... Because we know that when he's a gladiator, he's got short hair. And when he's talking to Doctor Strange, he has long hair. But in Doctor Strange, it talks about how he's there with Loki. So I don't know how that works out. So we need something maybe reconciling what Loki was doing, pretending to be Odin, or more than likely, they're just going to throw us straight into the action, I think. And then they're going to have a throwaway line to explain what they were setting up to be their sequel in order to do this sequel, in order to help set up Infinity War. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a post-credit scene with the Guardians of the Galaxy. There was a leaked Infinity War trailer where it looks like it starts by the Guardians flying through space and they hit Thor, being a throwback to when he kept getting hit by the van in the first Thor movie. They hit him in space and bring him in, and he talks about whatever's going on out there. In the comics, normally Thanos is in love with a physical embodiment of death. But recently in the comics, which I'm guessing is just a big hint, hint, wink, wink to what's going to happen in the movies, is he shifted to where he now seems to be in love with Hela, the Asgardian goddess of death.
I was going to ask, I was like, well, wouldn't that physical embodiment of death be Hela?
Yeah, not in the Marvel comics, because there's alternate versions of everything, out there. And multiple versions of death and the devil and that sort of thing. So that would be my guess, is if they keep Cate Blanchett around, that she might factor into Thanos on some level. The important thing to keep in mind is, in the comics with Ragnarok, everybody ends up dying. Everybody always comes back. So, just like in the comics, I wouldn't take any death in this one seriously. But yeah, I'm assuming maybe Valkyrie is the Asgardian who comes looking for Thor on the planet, or maybe she's already there and is one of the warriors, because she's kind of got the face paint thing going on that looks kind of like the Grandmaster, Jeff Goldblum's character. But who knows how Hulk got there. I would love for it to be like, yeah, Iron Man decided I was too dangerous and shot me into space without talking to anybody, because that would just be more fuel for, character development later on. Or it's going to be that he was just abducted by aliens because he looked like he would be a good fighter, kind of thing. So we have to do, I would assume, start in Asgard maybe, with Loki, if Loki's involved. Then we have to go to Earth. Then we have to go to Sakaar. At some point in here, there's Thor loses his hammer to Hela, except he has it when it looks like we see them on Earth. And then they have to go back to Asgard to fight it again. So I see how they can talk road trip movie. They need to go to Muspelheim at some point in order to fight Surtur. Like, I don't know. Here's what I want out of the movie. I'm okay with the humor, but I want an epic story. Because that's what I think Thor needs to deliver. And that's where I think the first two films came up short. The first one did better than the second one. But
what is an epic story? In your mind,
like Lord of the Rings scale. Like, they had the scenes. No, not like all the walking in the Lord of the Rings. I mean, you know how at the beginning of the second film they had the big battle scene, like a flashback to that?
Sure.
And then Thor had like a small skirmish on the one planet with all the other things, and then he defeats the big guy, and that's it. I want to see Thor and all the Asgardians in a big war. I want to see what it's like for Thor not to just be running solo or with a couple people. I want to see him leading an army against something. I want a story that feels big.
But didn't you have that whole war thing with the ice people and with the evil elf guys? I mean, that was...
Kind of. But with Malekith, it was very much kind of one-on-one, and then he had a bunch of stormtroopers who couldn't shoot anything and were being beaten by one broke girl. Mm-hmm. So if you want to give me the ice giants again, okay, but have the so Malekith and the Dark Elves attack Asgard. That's a great start, but then it kind of phases away and it becomes much smaller. We're going to focus on the Curse character who's breaking out and then kills the mom and then everybody runs away. Give me the ice giants attacking. In the comics right now, Malekith is the bad guy, and he's, over the course of a couple of years worth of stories, been organizing this War of the Realms, where he's slowly taking over all these things, and it's this giant war going on. It's that sort of stuff. Because if you have characters that live thousands of years, show me things that, where people took their time and had these big things. And it's the idea of you can tell a personal story within a larger storyline. And it feels like they're trying to do it here. If the goddess of death shows up and starts destroying Asgard, like, that's the level that I'm looking for. It's just, I feel then they're also going to try and do this slapstick comedy thing in the middle, and I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But so far, all the reviews we're hearing say it's a good movie, it's a funny movie. I just hope we don't need another Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what they're for. They're supposed to be the space battles and fun. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, the things that I know I would love to see, I know I'm not going to. So I'm just trying to keep my expectations in check. And I hope Valkyrie turns out to be a badass character. I hope she turns out to be like Gamora, where, you know, or a Wonder Woman-ish character that has a lot of fans instead of just being the female character of the group. Mm-hmm. I hope that character is well drawn and stands alone, and I hope that Hela comes out as a really good villain. I love that they're doing the Jack Kirby giant head thing, because that's how she was originally drawn in the comics. Everybody looked ridiculous because they were drawn by Jack Kirby, and I'm really happy that they're going with that. But yeah, I don't know, Anthony Hopkins as Zorro, because he was Zorro in the Zorro movies. He trains. I'm
confused.
I was trying to get a smile out of you. I was trying to get a laugh out of you.
I was confused because I didn't know where you were
he
going
goes
with
charm, and he teaches Antonio Banderas charm.
Yeah.
I like Anthony Hopkins.
I like Antonio Banderas.
Yeah. Where's he in this movie?
Antonio?
Yeah. Why is he not in the Marvel Universe?
Because he's Puss in Boots. He's busy being a cat.
He's busy being a cat. Okay.
Or Spy Kids or whatever.
Yeah, the Spy Kids 3D. Okay. So, any last thoughts? Like, obviously, it's been me talking. I threw out a bunch of stuff. There's so much more out there, you guys. But because I don't know what this movie is going to have, and because I feel like they're sort of cutting it out of whole cloth, and then just, like, adding little tidbits of other things that are out there, Stan Lee's going to be in it. And bits and pieces that...
Are you sure Stanley hasn't been in a lot of stuff lately? Like, I feel like he missed cameos in a couple of the recent movies.
I don't know that he's done them in all of the X-Men movies, but for the Marvel films, like, he's already filmed them. They filmed, like, 4 cameos at a time in case he passes away.
No, it wasn't. It was because he was there.
Right, but they shot cameos for him on movies that aren't necessarily... that were, like, sort of in production. Like, he did one for...
Right, but
Black Panther, and he did one for Spider-Man, and he did one for Thor Ragnarok, and maybe Infinity War.
I don't think he was in Civil War, was he?
Yeah, pretty sure he was.
I don't think so. He was not in one recently, because I remember you and I left the movie and we were like, oh, there was no Stan Lee. I don't remember which one it was, but I swear we left the theater or...
Where's my phone?
I don't know.
A Stan Lee cameo. I don't know that I believe you here. Now, I can't think of all of the ones that he's been in. No, well, he was in Guardians 2 because he was on, like, the planet with the Watchers. And he said, and that time I played this character. I was a bus driver. Right. So we know he was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Okay.
Okay, so
like
you want...
I feel like it was Civil War.
Okay. So... nope, because at the end of Civil War, he shows up and says, "Are you Tony Stank?"
Okay.
So he was in Civil War. So the only other one he wouldn't have been in was Spider-Man.
Which I didn't see.
And, let's see. Spider-Man and, Tony Stark embraces yada yada yada. Let's go to images. Isn't this exciting audio, you guys? Are you trying to look this up as well?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. We can assume that he's in there somewhere.
You can cut this out.
No, I'm not going to edit anything out. This whole thing is going straight in. That's the whole point of recording with the second person. All right. Anyway, what do you want to see from Thor Ragnarok? Because we can wrap this up and you can go to bed.
What do I want to see?
Yeah. And final thoughts. Because you already said what you're hoping for. But
I want to see a good movie.
Okay.
That's all. I mean, I don't know, because
I don't see you really caring about seeing teases for the next Marvel thing or seeing the movies interact with one another.
Right.
You know, like I know you like Thor because he's pretty. And then there's Chris Pratt, who we call Handsome McRock Abs.
Yep.
So would it be a big thing for you to see both of them on screen together?
No.
Because I don't see, you're not really a fangirl. You just like
I like those
movies.
characters. I think because they're funny characters and they're nice characters, and I don't know. I just want to see a good movie.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything.
No,
deeper
that's fair.
than that.
That's fair. All right. Well, we'll take it into the end of the show then. with a bop, deep down, bop, bow. Don't look at me like that. Your husband's amazing.
Okay.
So for the poll list this week, obviously, we're just going to say go out and see the movie. Go out and see Thor Ragnarok. And I really hope you guys have a wonderful, happy Halloween. I believe I'm going to be spending the weekend binging season 2 of Stranger Things. And then I get to go to a event for Girl Scouts as part of my Harry Potter cosplay group. And I'm borrowing another costume, so I get to go as Dumbledore. So once that happens, I'll throw some pictures up there. But we'll say that if you want to go out and read a good Thor comic book, I never personally read the Thor Ragnarok storyline. I read the stuff that came right afterward that was written by Michael J. Straczynski. I would suggest the Jason Aaron written, he was the writer, Volume 1 of Thor God of Thunder, which is one that Void actually read and said he really liked. I know he fell off after, I think, the second or third volume. But you can go and pick that up. You can find it online, I'm sure, maybe cheap. At this point, it would probably be on the Marvel app, Marvel Unlimited. There we go. But that is it. That is it for this week. So we are going to close the comic box. I'm looking forward to the movie. I hope you are. Mm-hmm. Even if we're mitigating our expectations. Because it seems like we're super down on this. Like, I assume it's actually going to be a really fun movie.
I hope so. I mean, you know me. I don't like going and seeing movies in a packed theater. That's what you love to do.
Yes, because it makes the jokes funnier and the scares bigger when you're experiencing it with a crowd.
I don't see scares.
I know
I
you
don't
don't.
see scary movies.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, wife. We will see if you are willing to go and see the movie with me opening weekend so that we can record a review together. I hope so. Because I think not for me.
No.
But for the listeners.
Oh.
All the people out there in podcast land. Because then we got to hear your thoughts on what you're hoping to see, and then we flip it over and we get to see your thoughts after you get to see the movie. I mean, it only makes sense.
I played Pokemon. That's my weekly geekery.
That's true. I like it took you this long to remember. You did. All the new Pokemon came out for Halloween.
Five.
And you have...
all of them.
You have all of them. Because you are a Pokemon master.
Yep.
Or do you have to catch all of the regionals in order to consider yourself that?
Let's go to Japan.
Okay. Sure. I imagine at some point we will. Just so you can catch your Pokemon. All right. Well, thank you very much, though. I appreciate joining me. And everyone out there, go see Thor Ragnarok. And don't forget, we are part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. You can head to GeektoGeekCast.com, see if any of our shows tickle your fancy. You can find us all over the place. I will have links in the show notes for Slack and Twitter and Facebook and our subreddit. But I absolutely want to know your thoughts when you see Thor Ragnarok. I'm going to do my best to see it before you do, but I don't know that I'm going to go to like a midnight showing on Thursday. More than likely,
I won't be.
Yeah, more than likely I'll go and see it on like a Saturday morning or something like that. But the plan's certainly opening weekend is to go and see that. And then the week after that, it's a prep episode for Justice League, and the week after that, it's Justice League, and the week after that, we'll probably have, I don't know when The Punisher comes out. It'll probably be, so I got plans now. Last couple of weeks, it's been like, let's talk horror comics. Now I finally know what's going on. It's just a matter of getting people to do the show with me. Mm-hmm. Like you.
I won't do the other shows.
Okay.
Because I don't want to see The Punisher.
You don't want to go see Justice League?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Do you want to see Justice League?
Not terribly. But Liam says he's excited. So at the very least, I should be able to get Liam to go with me.
Okay.
If we get Liam to go with me. All right. That's it. We will see you guys next week with a the comic box talking about Thor with the wife because she came back on because she's nice.
Keep your fancy in your pants.
What?
You say, see if any of it tickles your fancy, and all I could think of was, please keep your fancy in your pants.
Is that from something?
No, not that I know of.
Just original creation. That's staying in. See you guys.